So, Marina, welcome and thank you so much for being our guest speaker today. We're super excited to have you on, and you've got an incredible bio, which I'm going to read out in a minute. But we just want to say that these conversations are so important for our members to hear. When you hear the raw, vulnerable stories and how people who've become successful in life in whatever area, whatever fulfillment, and they've overcome their own fears and doubts, but then they come on and actually share those stories and how they overcome them. That is just the key piece to learning. People learn from stories, and it's very difficult for everyday people just to go out and ask people this. And it's also it's hard for people to be vulnerable and tell them. So this is really the work that we're trying to do within leadership in life. And so it really is important. And honestly, I think you're going to be amazing today. And it's
Thank
so
you.
good to have you. So I am going to read your bio.
Start with the bio.
Yes. And I hope I pronounce your surname correctly. It's Marina Piccioni.
Piccioni. So a peach and an oni. Yes, Piccioni.
Way better than
Close enough.
There you go. So Marina Piccioni.
There
So
you go.
your career started early, like really early, at the age of 13. I love that. And it unfolded across banking, telecom, retail, startups, and travel, guided less by a master plan and more by curiosity. Project management, sorry, from call centers. Wait a minute, I've gone past one. So, guided less by a master plan and more by curiosity, relationships, and a willingness to figure things out as she went. From call centers and project management to startups and global brands, her work has consistently focused on building strong customer and partner experiences. Today, Marina is Director of COOP Programs, Strategic Partnerships, Gift Cards and Events at Sunwing Vacations Group and WestJet, where she leads high-impact partner programs, revenue-driving initiatives, and large-scale experiences across the travel ecosystem. A strong believer in self-awareness and people-first leadership, Marina credits much of her growth to understanding her strengths, blind spots, and values. If there's a common thread through her career, it's learning on the job, because no one ever leaves behind instructions.
Never.
It would be nice.
It would be nice, but no. At Sunwing, she is affectionately known as the culture queen. I love that.
Love it.
A nod to her belief that culture is built through everyday actions, genuine care, and showing up for people. Outside of work, Marina runs marathons, not for speed, but for consistency. A philosophy that mirrors how she approaches leadership, life, and long-term success. Wow, that is honestly an absolutely brilliant bio. I love
Thank you.
it. So
Thank you.
I'm just going to organize this little thing here. I've got kind of like people admitting in. So,
Oh, of course.
so amazing. So we're going to start with the same question that we always start with our guests. If you can look back at your career path and where you started off and where you are now, is it one that you envisioned when you first started, or did it evolve unexpectedly along the way, along the journey?
That's a great question. And no, I had no idea what would happen. All I knew is that I love to work. And that's why I started working at such a young age. And I decided, I love this. I love that I'm learning something. I love that I'm making money. And I love that there are opportunities for me to do other things. I always dreamed I'd have an office job on Bay Street in Toronto. That's something I always envisioned, but I wasn't good at math. School wasn't my forte, but, in my mind, I knew it was going to happen for me. And this was something I could strive for and I could do it. I don't know how I was going to do it, but deep down inside, there was that fire in me that said, you got this, it's going to happen. How are we going to do this? So progressively, I made my way, starting at McDonald's at a young age. I was 13. At 17, I had the keys to the store. I was the manager, closing the restaurant at 3 a.m. in the morning and then driving the employees home who were older than I was, but that was part of the policy, And then from there, I decided, Montreal is where I was born and raised. That wasn't where, I needed to be. I needed to be somewhere that, that there were lots of opportunities that existed. And so I moved to Toronto, and I landed a role at CIBC. And from there, that's where I really, I think that the core of my strengths were developed there. I met a lot of people. I did a lot of internal networking. I had various call center jobs, from one product to joining the team that handled every single inquiry you could possibly have at the bank, and then moving into a business analyst role, and then telecommunications, like having zero experience doing any of this. But, the opportunity came across my desk, and I thought, why not? What have I got to lose? I made it this far. I can keep going. And that's what I did. Every opportunity that came my way, I never said no. I said, yes, I want it. Were there opportunities that I really wanted and didn't happen? Yes, of course there were. I didn't get every single thing that I dreamed of, but there was a reason for that, right? And I think that what was really valuable, in those experiences is that as I went along, I treated everyone with respect, kindness, fairness. I was available to assist and support. I really valued, the communication that I had, and really enjoyed learning from others. And I was adaptable to change and to, whatever came my way. And I think others really appreciated that. And that's what allowed me to move into various different roles that I've had throughout my career. In many instances, I didn't necessarily apply for a role, but someone reached out to me and said, hey, I worked with you before, love your energy. I know that you don't have experience doing this, but would you be interested? And my answer was always yes. Let's do it. Let's figure out a way how we can make this happen.
Amazing. Go on.
No, I love the story anyway, from start to fast food to where you are now. But I love the fact that your career has been, to a certain degree, built on your reputation. You just said then that even if the job was not advertised or when that might not be, people just looked at you as like, you know, this is the person that we want in this role, and the hard work that you put in kind of carried you on. It wasn't
Yes.
necessarily a super skill base. It was just a hard work and dedication.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and consistency is a big piece of that, right? I mean, when you think about leadership and you think of, great people that you work with, what is great about them? It's their attitude, right? It's their work ethic and their consistency. You can count on them to do things and to deliver. And I take a lot of pride in how consistent I am and my commitment to things. If I say I'm going to do something or get back to you, I will do that. Whether it's completed or not, I've made that commitment. And that's really, really important. And that goes a long way. And people remember that.
Mm-hmm. And that's something that it was interesting when we were speaking at Guelph University. So many people was talking about, the technical skills and the leaving university and, where they're going to go with these technical skills. And we really honed in on that your attitude and how you show up is way more important than your technical skills, which is obviously what's, developed your career path, because you said you didn't always have the skills to
No.
take on that job, but you were approached because of your positive energy and your attitude towards it and towards learning. So that's amazing. I do have a question, kind of going back to, you talked about when you were younger and, all these opportunities were coming up. Did you have the awareness back then that adaptability was a strength? Or were they kind of like, did you have fears back then of, even though you were saying yes to everything, was there anything that you had fear and doubts surrounding that?
Every single day. I never thought I was able to do anything, but I was fearless in the sense of no, I don't know how to do that. I am, but I'm going to do it anyway. Do I have imposter syndrome? Yes, that's something I struggle with all the time. And I think that's a natural feeling to have. But in the end, I'm where I am today because I took the risk and I was fearless in my actions and in my desire to want to be better all the time and to help the business that I'm working with. They needed me. They asked me if I would be willing to help them. And my answer is always yes.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing. So did you develop that fearless, like, was that something that was always in you? Or is that something that somebody told you to just go for it? Or, because like
Yeah.
managing like, a store and everything so young, and that's a big deal. So is that something that you was brought up with?
No, I wasn't. So I think about this all the time. I reflect on, my childhood and my career path and how I did things. And although I have fears, I've always been fearless, but not knowing that I'm being fearless at the time. I remember, in high school being part of the entrepreneur club, right?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really, and I didn't really understand the extent of what was happening until a few years later when I realized, oh my gosh, like, what was I thinking? Why was I part of this club? I didn't really know what I was doing, but I went in there and I thought, well, we're all here. I can be here too. Like it didn't click that I probably wasn't the best person suited for that entrepreneur club because that was never really something I had thought about, but I didn't care. It was something I was interested in and I wanted to do it. Another example I can give is I remember going to college and thinking, they have tryouts for the basketball team and the volleyball team. And, this is college level. And I thought, I'm just going to go and try out. But I had never played basketball before. I never played volleyball before. And I just thought, I can go ahead. I can go and try out. And I remember trying out and the coach on the basketball team coming to me and saying, you're not going to make the team, right? And I was surprised. And I thought, what? Really? I'm not going to make the team? He's like, absolutely not. Like, these are people that have been playing for years and this is their passion, and although I was surprised, I wasn't upset about it, but I knew I tried and that made me feel really good about myself. I tried and it didn't work out, but at least I did it. And I can say I did it,
That's a really amazing skill
It is
to have. So yeah, it's something that most people struggle with.
It is just the fact that you mentioned about the college basketball. Just there was nothing. It sounded like there was nothing in your mind that kind of said you are at a certain level in basketball. So this makes sense. It was just no. I want to do it. I'm going to go try it. And if I fail, I fail. But I'm going to go try it. And just having that determination and not. A lot of people are kind of crippled with fear at that point, and they never. As daft as it sounds, they never get the opportunity to be turned down.
Mm-hmm.
But that, again, that's another learning of. Right, okay, I've tried it.
Yeah.
Move on, try something different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like thinking back on it now, would I do that again? Probably not. Like, I don't know what was going on, but listen, I did it. And that's all I can share, right?
Yeah. And it's interesting the fact that you say, like with imposter syndrome and oh my gosh, yes, I've suffered with that. So many people suffer with that. But it's an interesting trait that you've got that you'll just go out there and do that and have a go at anything. But yet then you've kind of suffered with imposter syndrome as well. So that's interesting. I do have a question. Was there ever a moment when you did feel out of your depth in these pieces, like what that really kind of, oh my gosh, what have I done? But instead of pulling away, you just leaned in and figured it out.
Absolutely. Like when I joined Sunwing, I was recruited by my former leader from Indigo, who joined Sunwing as the chief marketing officer. And they were rolling out a new gift card program, and they needed someone to help them to execute this. So I joined the team and I helped them to execute the program, which was great. It worked out really well. But then after the implementation was done and, the system was running itself, my workload decreased significantly, and there really wasn't much I could do. There's only, a certain level of work that can be done on a gift card platform, unless you're willing to invest, significant dollars. There was really not much for me to do. So I approached my leader and I said, listen, the program is running well. You could probably give this to someone else to do as a side job. You don't really need someone like me to stay on board and to do this work. No hard feelings, but if you want to let me go, then by all means do so, and I can find something else. And her response to me was, absolutely not. We have a ton of work that needs to happen here. You have no experience in it, but I know that you can do this. So they handed over the co-op portfolio to me. So I didn't know anything about this. I didn't know about these relationships that were established. I didn't know how the revenue was generated. And this portfolio was responsible for the largest revenue generation, outside of ancillaries and sales in the business. And they needed someone to come in with fresh eyes and really evaluate the program and determine how we can make it better. I really struggled with this. Like I jumped in, I said, yes, absolutely. But for the first 2 or 3 months, I really struggled to understand exactly what I needed to do. Because it wasn't like, again, going back to my bio where I said, no one ever leaves instructions behind. There were no instructions. It was kind of like, throw you in and you figure it out. And I'm sure you'll come back with something. So, I met with multiple people, went in circles, tried to understand the new lingo of the travel space, which I wasn't familiar with, learning about the partnerships that we have and the rules around these things. And after a few months, I had a plan together, but I wasn't feeling super confident about it because I didn't really know if this is what the deliverable was in the end, ultimately. And when I went back and presented it, they were blown away and they said, this is exactly what we needed. We needed someone with fresh eyes. We needed someone to do this. And I wish I had known that a little bit before so that I could, it's like feel confident in my deliverable versus being anxious and nervous about it. So I should have spoken up sooner and said, is this the right direction that you wanted me to go in? And am I going the right way? But ultimately, I've built a really profitable business. The team that works for me, I had one resource, I have 3 now. And the one resource that was part of the team initially was being overworked, underappreciated, undervalued. And I made sure to take care of that person because I saw what they did and what they delivered and ultimately their contribution to the business as a whole. So, I'm really proud of what's happened and what I've been able to do. And this came out of nowhere. I wasn't expecting this. And I think about this not regularly, but I think of it often. And if I were to see this job description today, would I apply for this role? Would I think I was qualified to do this? And I often think, no, I wouldn't apply for that. I wouldn't know how to do this. But if you have the passion, if you're willing to take risks, if you're willing to go the distance, you can do anything. Obviously I can't be a doctor, I can't be a lawyer, but you understand, right?
Yeah, definitely.
If the passion is there, you can do it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's an amazing message. And just like the adaptability, I think I'll tell a little story about me when I was younger. And I was very young. I was like, I was in my late teens actually. And my friend said to me, she said, you seem to act different when you're in different crowds of people. And she said, and you always seem to, listen to different sides of the story. You don't have your own opinion. And she said it to me in a way that made me feel like I wasn't like that was a wrong thing. I should make a decision and I should stand by my personality and I should act the same in every situation. And I held on to that for a couple of years, and it actually kind of became a bit embedded in me. I couldn't stop thinking about it. And like, luckily, I didn't let it become, my own thinking as well. And I was lucky enough to be on a course, and I asked the tutor about it. And he turned around and said to me, "You have the greatest skill. You're adaptable." And that's what leadership is. And I would have never have thought about it like that at all. And so, yeah, it's like adaptability when I hear that.
Yeah.
Um,
That's a great message.
that's my story as well.
Yeah. I've just got one question there, Marina.
We shouldn't keep apologising
I
for
know,
questions,
I know.
because we're here to ask the
I know,
questions.
I'm trying.
I keep doing it as
I'm
well.
absorbing this like a sponge, and things keep coming back to me. So you said that you had that one employee or one person reported into you who was overworked, underappreciated, and you obviously took them under your wing and obviously changed them and made them a more productive, more engaged kind of person. How did you do that, just out of curiosity?
Well, initially, when the portfolio was transferred to me, he was like, very quiet, kept to himself. He's just one of those hardworking individuals that comes in, does the work, and then leaves, and I got to know him a little more, tried to understand what his family life was like and what he did like outside of work, and, what do his kids do? Like, what are they like? Does he have a close relationship? I think that's important. I think it's important to have a relationship with your teammates, so that you can relate to things, right? Like being parents, or or if they play soccer and my kids play soccer, then there's that mutual interest.
Yep.
But he never asked for anything. When I asked him, I said, "What are your career goals?" And he's like, "I just want to work." For him, it was, I want to work, I want to make money, and that's what I want to do. And what I explained to him in our one-on-ones is that you have to want more, meaning not more money or not more work, but like you should have goals in your career. Like, what is it that you want to do? Do you want to do this forever? If that's the case, then that's great. But as part of your career, how can we make things better in this job then? We can't do the same thing over and over again. We need to progress, just like technology changes and, people change, and, everything has to evolve. So how do we evolve this job? So him and I work together on how we can streamline things and how we can, make some processes better or eliminate duplication of effort and work. And I really involved him in a lot of those decision making. And whenever updates needed to be provided, I included him, and then slowly started to get him to provide these updates so that he had exposure to, the rest of the organization, so that everyone could see how valuable he is. And slowly but surely, he became more confident, willing to take risks, open to change, because change is hard for a lot of people. But, I wouldn't say a completely different person now, but I could tell that, when I gave him his first bump, his promotion, he was surprised and said, a lot of people talk to me about helping me to do this, but you were the only one that actually followed through and made it happen. So thank you. And from there, we continue to work together and figure out ways how we can simplify things. I asked him for ideas and suggestions on strategy. And then when I met with my coach or my leader to talk about our vision moving forward, he was with me, and I allowed him to share some updates with that. And then, from there, they saw his value even more than they had ever seen before. And when I approached the leadership team about promoting him, there were no questions asked. They saw his value, and they really believed in the changes that had been made and his growth over, the 2-year time frame that this happened. And he's a different person today. Like the rest of the team goes to him for guidance and leadership, and everyone loves working with him. If you say his name, everyone's like, "Oh, we love that guy." Like, he's amazing to work with. And, he's really appreciative, hardworking, he's a lot more social now than he's ever been before. And I think that makes coming to work for him a lot better now too. And we love having him.
Yeah. And you'll be the leader that he will always remember, and his biggest change to.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, that's how I feel about him. The biggest impact has been in my life from a leadership standpoint has been him. So
that's amazing. Wow.
Oh,
I was so involved in that then that yeah. so that, because that was going to be my question about this. So I think, go on. I'm looking because we've asked some of these questions that we have on here now. We've kind of gone through a lot.
I think one that I'm kind of thinking here is, if you were to rewind X amount of years to when you started your career, what advice would you give to yourself? Would you more or less say, just follow the same pattern, work hard, get your head down, prove yourself, or would you kind of assess it in a different manner?
I would say that I would not let some of the fears I had, or, that imposter syndrome, affect me the way it has. I would just say, you know what? You don't think you're qualified, or you don't think you should be at the table, but you're invited to the table. If you're invited, there is a reason that you're at the table. Yeah. Enjoy that experience, learn from it, and just be proud of what you've accomplished to that point. You're at the table. I mean, that's where you want to be, right?
I absolutely love that. Yeah, you're invited to the table. That's it. At the end of the day, yeah. Wow. Okay, so a couple more questions we're going to throw at you. So with regards to which one? I think this one. So with regards to your mentors and people that you've looked up to, can you share a moment when you've been observing them, whether it's been a good example, a good mentor, or a bad manager, a terrible example, where you've been observing them and that you actually took something on that completely shaped how you approach your own career and life?
Yeah. So I think in my current role, my leader is, with the integration of WestJet and Sunwing, there are a lot of, concerns and challenges that we face because, individuals have had to change jobs and roles. And for us to integrate together and go from two separate teams to one team is challenging, right? Again, change is hard for many people. So that's something that you just have to deal with. But the way she's managed the integration and, bringing two separate marketing teams together into one and trying to create relationships amongst everyone is really interesting to me. And she's just very relaxed about it. She's not being overly professional and, sitting proper and like, this is the way things are going to be done. Her approach is, guys, listen, I know this is hard. This is not something that any of us want to be doing right now. So let's just chill out, relax. Like, she's just being very casual about it, relax, and let's just talk about what's bothering us. And if you don't want to talk about it, I've set up this mailbox you can send a note to, someone will be monitoring it. I won't know who's asking the question. Let's just get it out there. She set up calls with every single person within marketing, and we're talking, close to 80 different people, where she's had a one-on-one with every single person to help answer questions. And to me, that commitment to ensuring that everyone feels seen is so valuable and incredibly important and a game changer. Mm-hmm. I know that not everyone can do this, but to make this a priority to ensure that the team feels seen is incredible. And I think if everyone could do something like that to, to really integrate everyone together, I think that's wonderful. And what she's also done is, giving us a means of getting to know each other. So she set up an Excel spreadsheet, and every month she sends out an update with a spreadsheet that says, okay, it's the mix and mingle, where 2 or 3 people have a call and learn about each other. We don't know who the other person is. We just, set up a time to meet, and then we get on the call, and she gives us a subject like, what are your resolutions for 2026, and what's the biggest goal that you want to achieve? So at least there is a framework and there's a starting point. But we've done this is our 3rd month now, and some of the individuals that I've met, like I would never have known what their hobbies were, or what their background is, how long they've worked for the organization. So what I've learned is that things don't always have to be professional and proper. You can think outside of the box to really bring people together and make them feel comfortable and seen.
Yeah, she sounds like an excellent
leader. Amazing.
Just like human and authentic.
So yeah, absolutely.
Maybe she'd be a good guest.
She would be.
Well, one of the points you actually touched on then that she mentioned was the fact that people feel noticed by her, that she's kind of getting everyone involved. And I was only reading like 2 weeks ago about some stats about people in a work environment, as crazy as it sounds, would rather be reprimanded than ignored. Because when they're being reprimanded, at least they're being noticed. So people, just the fact that she's actually noticing everybody and giving everybody a little bit of time is just a huge, huge win.
Yeah, I agree. And, the other piece too that, like going back to my bio again, the whole idea of culture, right, is another really big piece to defining the type of person that you are as well. Networking is really important, and most people, when they think of networking, they think, oh, I'm going to go to a networking event, and I'm going to go and, and network at this conference that's happening, and so on. But the number one place you should be networking is within your own organization. That is where the magic happens. That is where you meet really interesting people. You meet people that can help you do a better job, right? I know that this happens to me all the time where, I'm like, oh, I wonder who I can talk to about this particular issue that I'm having. And then I think, oh, I'm going to message so-and-so because we've chatted about this during one of our events, and I'll reach out to them and they'll say, oh, I'll connect you with this person. They're the right person that you need to connect with. And because of that, I've met so many people within our organization that I never would have met before. And, I realize a lot of people are really uncomfortable, networking or having even a coffee with anyone. But the best opener for networking is when you walk down the hall and you see someone, you say good morning and you smile. And that good morning after a couple of weeks is going to lead to, how was your weekend? What do you do exactly? And then that's going to lead to, oh, we're doing an event next week. I hope I'm going to see you there. And then at the event, it leads to, what do you do exactly? Like, I've never asked you, I've seen you all the time. And I've met countless people that I probably never would have chatted with otherwise. And because of this, people will walk up to me and say, hey, we heard there's an event happening. Are you going to be there? Or what time should I be there? Like they come to me with questions or, issues that they're having, or they'll say, like going back to that public speaking comment we chatted about earlier, I'd love to get some experience in public speaking. Any ideas how we can do something like that at the office, So this is where, that internal networking is really valuable, but also being that person that people feel comfortable talking to and asking questions to goes a long way. And that creates that environment of, again, feeling seen. you know?
Yeah. And I love what you touched on there, because so many people are so scared of networking. It's like a biggest fear. And it doesn't have to be like walking into a room and, kind of work in a room. That's such a really good tip that you shared there, that all you have to do to start is walk past people and say good morning and smile, and have that energy and be approachable, that, like you're looking somebody in the eye and smiling. And that's all it needs to start by.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Really
when I came back to the office this week, when I walked into the cafeteria to grab a coffee, the women working in the cafeteria kitchen came over and hugged me and said, "It's so nice to see you. It feels like it's been so long." And that brought me so much joy, because it doesn't matter that they're working in the cafeteria kitchen. Like, they're friends, they're colleagues. We all work for the same organization. And, the fact that I brought them joy made me feel amazing. And, like, who wouldn't want that?
It becomes contagious.
Yeah,
it really is.
Positivity is contagious, for sure.
So one other question I've just got right quick is, and it's amazing that you've got the leader that sounds like there's, she's an amazing leader, doing wonderful things. And this is for us members. The question I'm going to ask is, have you worked for a not so good leader, and what was the immediate red flags? And for our members, what we're trying to do is make sure that they can clearly identify both, because we don't want any of them working for a bad leader. The quicker they can flag that this ain't a good leader, then, the better it's going to be. So have you ever worked for a leader that's not the best, and how did you identify that?
Yes, I have worked for a leader that wasn't an amazing experience. And I think the first couple of red flags were that there was lying. So, this is what you have to deliver. And then when I did deliver, they came back and said, "This is not what I asked for." And then I kept going back. And then I had to then start sending emails and saying, "Just confirming this is what you requested." And then replying back and saying, confirming that I had the right instructions. And then even with that, it was like, "This is not what I asked for." And then having to prove it. Like, when you have to prove that what you're delivering is what the leader is asking for, that's a red flag for me. Yeah. Changing numbers and saying something like, we need to have 40 events in 2026, let's just say, just hypothetically, and then going back with a plan for that number of events, and then coming back and saying, "No, I didn't say 40, I 50, I meant 75. Okay, but why is this changing? Like, and why am I only hearing about this now? And that was a constant change and reminder. And also, when we were in meetings with an ad agency or a media agency, the behavior and the treatment towards the partner wasn't positive. They were being condescending. They were not being respectful or mindful of the work that was being delivered. Obviously, I do understand that they're being paid for it, but they're still a partner. And I think there is a certain way that, communication can be exchanged. And, that was another red flag for me. I just thought, I've never seen this before, and it makes me uncomfortable. And being uncomfortable when you're around someone is another red flag. You never ever want to be around someone that doesn't make you feel at ease, who doesn't drive you to be better. When instinctively you feel like you want to crawl into like a hole and just don't want to come out. Like, to me, that's not leadership. That's leading with fear, and that's not the way to do it.
Yeah, and you just dread the Mondays and everything else. And I imagine that the general environment is just not. Everybody else is going to be the same. It's just not a nice environment to, unfortunately, have to work in.
I've been in that position, and I think it really is key. It's something that we've recognised. A lot of people, they might never actually have a good leader. So they're only seeing that, oh, when you get into a leadership position, this is how you should act. And that's what creates the evolution of bad leaders, unfortunately. So it's really important to recognize when it's not,
right.
There's something and that kind of touches on it exactly there. If somebody makes you feel uncomfortable in whatever way, then there's a red flag, and it's noticing those red flags. So thank you for that. To end, is there anything that you would like to add that you feel might be of benefit to our members? We gave you a little bit of a rundown on our members. Things like if there's any, career tips or leadership advice, anything that you'd like to share to end on if we've not covered it.
Yeah, I mean, again, going back to the networking piece, network as much as you can, and not those external events within the organization you're working with. When I joined Walmart, I emailed every executive to say I had joined the team and thank you for having me. And if ever you want to have a coffee to chat, I'm available. I know you're busy, but 2 executives responded back from the 8 that were on the board at the time. And I did have a chance to meet and have coffee with them. And I learned a great deal. And they were really impressed that I would even take the time to do that. And the fact that they responded and took the time to meet with me, that to me demonstrates like what leadership is really all about. Or even had they responded and said, thank you, I'll connect with you in the future if there's time. I know executives are busy, but that was one of the things that really stood out for me. And that internal networking piece, the value it brings to your career is far bigger and better than you probably even think it is. And it will open doors for you that probably have never been open before. And if there is one thing that I would really press on is take that chance, just do it for 2 weeks and see if you feel or if there is a difference that's being made. But it's definitely worth trying. The other is if an opportunity is given to you and you're worried that you're not qualified, you're concerned that you might mess it up, take it. If it's something that you've always thought maybe you could do it, or you think, wow, this could be really interesting, why hold back? Take that chance and learn something new. You'd be surprised of what value it will bring to you and to your career. It's just be fearless.
Love it. What a perfect word to end on. Be fearless. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Honestly. Yeah. Do you have anything else?
No, I think just everything, just the whole interview here and the information that you've given has been so everybody will be able to relate with so many things that you've mentioned there. I think it's gonna speak volume to a lot of us members. So thank you so much.
Honestly, thank you, Marina.
Well, thank you for having me. I've really enjoyed this chat, and connect with me on LinkedIn. I respond to every message that I get, and I often have conversations by phone with members who, people I don't know that just want to have a 15-minute chat to talk about career and leadership and everything. So feel free, reach out anytime.
Well, if it's good for you, we'll put your handle in our portal when we upload the video, and then people can find you on LinkedIn. So thank you very much. Okay, so we're going to end the recording there, I think. Give me 1 second.